Hi there and welcome to your topic 2.1 video, 2.2, my apologies, ecosystem services. Apologize for the echo a little bit right now. I'm kind of in my master bath area. Excuse me. All right, so I'm just going to run through the list of questions really quick. The first question was, what main ecosystem service do honeybees provide? And that is going to be right here. They are pollinators. Now, please realize that they only pollinate things that create flowers. There are, as we're going to find out in the agriculture unit, plenty of plants that pollinate by wind. Those are largely our grasses, our grains, so like wheat and oats and barley, stuff like that. So you can see here many vegetables, fruits, and tree nuts such as almonds. So things like apples and grapes and pears, anything that creates oranges as an example. Anything that creates a flower needs a pollinator, and honeybees are one of the most important pollinators. List 3 other groups of organisms that provide the same ecosystem service as honeybees. So when you look down, where is it? It's in here, but I want to say that here we go. Butterflies, hummingbirds, and bats. There are also places in the rainforest where there are these monkeys that have these long mustaches that when they eat pollen out of the flower, they end up with just gold all over their mustache, and they pollinate the plants. But these are some big ones right here that do pollination as well. Okay, colony collapse disorder. This is all down here, and this is a big deal. We have been seeing bee colonies just literally here one day and gone the next, and we have no idea what's going on with them. And you can see that the impact is pretty severe when this is our historical rate loss right here. We don't know why. There are some things that are listed right here. Some other reasons we think they may be dying is because of certain pesticides that are used that aren't meant to target honeybees but end up targeting them anyway. There's some research that seems to show that what we do is folks who cultivate honeybees will keep them in boxes. I'll have to take a picture because you've probably seen them on the side of the road and not realize what they are. And then they're rented to different farmers so that they've got pollinators in their field, and there's some indication that might be stressful, but really we don't know why. And the problem is no pollinators, no fruit, no vegetables, no nuts, no food, unless it is either wind-borne pollination or somebody goes around with a little tiny paintbrush and pollinates everything. So one of the things that it notes here, and we will talk about this later, is that when you depend upon one single bee species, it means that if it goes, you're done. There's nothing else to take it over, or to take over its niche at the time. All right, define biological extinction. I am not going to read the book to you, but you can see that there's a definition right here for it. You need to know the difference between a background extinction rate, which is stuff dies. And please realize that extinction is neither a positive nor a negative term. It just is, because when something dies out, something else has the opportunity to rise up in its place. The reason mammals exist is because the dinosaurs all went extinct. However, there have been 5 mass extinctions, and that means sometimes almost 95% of all the species on the planet just gone. The good news is there's stuff left, so it rises up. Again, it's a kind of a value neutral thing. The only reason that extinction matters to us personally is that if we're on the chopping block, humans aren't super excited about that. Of course, the earth will keep turning and something else will arise in our place, but we as humans aren't excited to be gone. Okay, so you've got the difference between background extinction rate and mass extinction. Definitely not memorized, but get an idea in terms of numbers as to what is normal. Again, 5 mass extinctions. Why did we think they occurred? We think it's because of significant global warming or cooling, large changes in sea levels, and ocean water acidity catastrophes occurring. Now, when we talk about climate change, there have been rising and falling of climate. The problem that we're seeing right now is that it is accelerated, and all of the evidence is showing us that that's something that man has done. So if we would like to slow the change so that we can cope with it, perhaps we need to go ahead and change some of the things that we're doing. But again, that is a conversation for another day. Again, what happens after a mass extinction? Life finds a way. Stuff rises up in its place. So definitely read this here. Niches don't stay empty for very long. Excuse me. Main reason that extinctions have increased globally is right down here. It's us. As we've spread across the globe, either through direct or indirect action, we have impacted species pretty much everywhere that we have gone. You can see a little quote here from E.O. Wilson. 4 specific outcomes what did I say? Excuse me. List 4 specific outcomes of this reason. So you've got right here, humans destroyed and degraded habitat, consumed huge quantities of resources. Sorry, I'm pointing at something you can't see right here. So, loss of habitat, consumption of resources, creation of large and growing ecological footprints. We're going to talk about what that is. Well, and you can put destroyed habitats and then degraded habitats are kind of a little bit different. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what an ecological footprint is. That's page 13, and you will be calculating your ecological footprint at the beginning of quarter 2. Ecological footprint right here is the amount of land and water needed to supply a population in an area with their resources and to go ahead and deal with their waste. So it's the stuff you need, and then being able to deal with the stuff that you output, whatever that may be. Explain the concept of the 6th mass extinction. Well, this right here kind of leads into it. We are currently in an accelerated extinction rate. You can see extinction rate is likely to rise to at least 10,000 times the background rate, which is ridiculous. This talks about animals that we think are going to go extinct. Why is this a problem? Again, because of us. So, what are some ecosystem services that may go away? These are things that you can tuck into the back of your brain. You have to realize that, we cannot, from a cost perspective, replace what a lot of organisms do for us. Okay, real quick, we are going to differentiate between an R-selected and a K-selected species because that plays into endangered species here in a second. So page 193. If you remember, we have generalists and specialists. That has to do with something's niche, or its niche. Now we're going to talk more about this in the next unit, but we're going to briefly talk now about reproductive patterns because, like I said, that plays into endangered species. You have 2 kinds. Don't worry about any of the graphs right here. We're going to get to it in a little bit. Just realize that the letters do mean something, and they will be more meaningful to you when we get to the population graph that goes with them. But there's 2 kinds. You have a reproductive pattern where it's an R-selected species, and then you have one where it's a K-selected species. Like all binary categories, not everybody fits into them. You have some animals that are more R but show a little K. You have some that are kind of K. You have some that are in the middle. So when you're talking about these 2 kinds, be able to recognize and name specific examples of each. Okay, an R-selected species is right here. Short lifespan, produce many small offspring, and they need little to no parental care. As a result, many of the offspring died in early age. These are all characteristics of an R species. What I remember is that R stands for rifle, in that these animals just basically spray their babies everywhere. Shocking no one, our selected species are usually generalists, and they usually have a wide range of tolerance because they can basically go everywhere they like and just, lay eggs and bye. And even if only 1% of them survive, that's still plenty to go ahead and carry on the next generation. So classic examples of this are things like right here: frogs, most insects, and fish. K-selected species are literally the opposite. So reproduce later in life, few offspring, long lifespans, but they spend a lot of time as parents making sure their offspring are safe, teaching them how to be whatever species they are. And a lot of times, familial groups are exactly that. A lot of herds, as an example, are, second and third generation families. So the way I think about it is K, although this says carrying capacity, you don't know what that is, think that K stands for care. These animals take care of their young for a while. So again, make sure that you know both of those categories, what fits in there: elephants, whales, humans. Birds of prey, that means like raptors, anything with talons, like a hawk or an eagle, and most tropical rainforest trees, like and then also the Seguro cactus. So shocking no one again, excuse me, K-selected species, not always, but can be specialists. So low reproductive rates, again, elephants, sharks, blah, 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 blah. And again, shocking no one, they are vulnerable to extinction, which takes us back to our main reading passage. So here we go. Endangered species, right there. So go ahead and know the difference. Please realize that endangered and threatened are legal terms, meaning that there are sometimes animals that should fall into these categories that are not put into those categories for a variety of political and or economic reasons. So these are human constructs. Excuse me again. What is the IUCN in the red list? If you're curious to see all the animals in the world that are going extinct, they're all on that list. Well, not all of them, all the ones that we know about. There's another little quote from E.O. Wilson. 8 characteristics that make a species more vulnerable to extinction. This little guy right here. Characteristic and examples. Identify an organism that became extinct because of human interference. This guy right here, the passenger pigeon, is a classic example. These birds were big enough to feed 1 or 2 people. They had enough meat to do that. Their feathers were great for stuffing pillows. I mean, these were big pigeons. And they, their bones could be ground up and used as fertilizer. They used to have flocks that James J. Audubon, yes, that Audubon, used to say would take days to go by. They would blot out the sun. And when they migrated, there were a ton of them. Let's see. So, we founded our country in 1776, blah, blah, blah. By the, I wish the date was on here. There it is. They became extinct in the wild in 1912. We managed to kill literally millions of these things before they were the world's most abundant species. They live largely in North America, and we managed to kill them all off. So this is just a little anecdote, and I'll talk about this again in class. This is where the term stool pigeon comes in. A stool pigeon is basically like a rat. It is a person who not only tells the cops what's going on in a criminal organization, they also act as bait to draw out the rest of the people. So what they used to do with these animals, because they had a unique behavior called flocking, that when one of their members was hurt, the rest of the animals would flock on top of it and basically protect it in such mass numbers a predator couldn't get to it. So humans use that to their advantage. They would take one of these animals, and in order to calm it, they would sew its eyes shut, tie a string to its ankle, tie the string then to a stool, put it under a huge net, and then break the pigeon's leg. And then when it made its distress noises and all hundreds of its little friends came to protect it, whoop, down came the net, and we were done. So again, passenger pigeon is a classic example. We'll talk about a couple others in class as well. Identify several organisms that are currently endangered. Here you go. I will be talking about the California condor a little bit more in class because this is an American organism. It doesn't matter what you end up committing to memory. I always suggest some sort of animal and some sort of plant. As long as you know where to find it, what its normal biome is, and maybe why it's being threatened. So that is the extent of the questions here. Please don't forget to go over the notes that we did in class, and good luck on your quiz.